Minute Timeouters, I'm Dr. Matt.
And I'm Dr. Amy.
And today we're going to share with you one epic fail this week that happened. Check that out.
It's probably backwards on your camera, but you can figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah, so this is 21 out of 40 if that's flipped on your camera. 21 out of 40 on a science test, and how that became an awesome life lesson strategy. So just in case you didn't see that, let me show you again while everybody's logging on here. That's 21 out of 40 on what grade, hon? 21 out of 40 on a grade 5 science test. So we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming down the pipe. We got a lesson that's been building for weeks on that. But while everybody's checking in, we've got people who are coming on from all over the place. But as everybody's checking in, just a couple of announcements to make. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe so you can get automatic notifications when we have new videos. There's 2 per week. So that is, look up 10-minute time out on YouTube. As you're going through, ask questions, create some dialogue. The whole purpose of this, hey, that's it. Thumbs up, hearts, likes. Good morning, Fabienne. Good to see you. Hearts, thumbs up, ask questions. We have got awesome things that are coming in through this. We're getting tons of community feedback. Yes. Our whole goal is to get outside of our house, get outside of our office, and to share the things that we really feel like are important in life, like relationships, raising your kids, health, marriage, community-based things. So that's what we want to do when we connect with you guys today. So today our whole theme is how to take an epic fail, a 21 out of 40 on a grade 5 math test, and science test, and turn that into family victories for everybody. So why don't you get rolling on that?
Well, first of all, this is going to sound really funny, but we actually were hoping that he did really poorly on the test.
Yeah, that is crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. So when he came home with it, I was kind of happy. And I actually sent an email to the teacher saying, I know as sad as it is, because it's outside of his character, we actually were really happy that he did poorly. And let me explain the reasoning behind that, okay?
Yeah. Because she's not just cruel. Sometimes she's cruel to me, but she's not cruel to our kids. So just so you know.
That's thrown under the bus there.
Yeah, so she doesn't always wish that our kids fail, but explain yourself.
I want the best out of them. And I think the biggest thing is that you need to recognize who your kids are and what their personal best is, okay? Peyton is different than Mateo, and Mateo and Peyton are different than Kaylin, and Reese is like a whole nother planet. Yeah. So you have to recognize what your personal best is for each child, okay? And that is not Mateo's personal best, okay? So that's why I say we were kind of happy that he didn't do well on it. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work out if he does really well. And so the biggest thing for us is that we've realized that Mateo didn't bring home his science stuff, didn't study for the test, and we didn't find out about it until after he had written the test.
So I think the test was like on a Monday morning. He had the entire weekend, and like on Sunday at like whatever it is, like 7:30 at night, he's like, oh, I have a science test tomorrow. And then we say, where's your stuff? And he's like, oh, I didn't bring it home. But of course he knows it all, right? Like, he's grade 5, he knows everything. So he knows it all, he doesn't need to study. But I think he might have...
I think he comes by that, honestly.
Oh, whatever. I think he Googled a couple of things to, it was something...
No, he didn't even Google. No, don't even give him credit. Okay, he did not Google. This was an epic fail. Yeah. He just dropped the ball there. And for Mateo, that is not his best. So I understand that him doing that, it wasn't because he studied tons and he just didn't do well. He didn't study at all, and it came back and was very reflective of that. So we had 2 choices. We could blow up on him and, turn this mistake into a memorable mistake for the rest of his life, as I remember the time I almost failed my science test, and, my parents blew up and grounded me. And so we already knew this was coming, and so this is our philosophy, is that you can never make a mistake if you, A, take responsibility for it, B, you're going to learn from it, and C, you're going to grow from it. And so there's never a bad mistake. And so that our kids aren't afraid to make a mistake. And Mateo knew right away that he had basically dropped the ball on that test. And he came right out of school on Monday afternoon and said, I think I failed the test. And so we've been working towards this. And the goal is that you make your kids not afraid to make mistakes, so that they can continually be a better adult.
Yeah, like that almost redefining what a mistake is, right? Like the mistake is only a mistake, like or it's only really a failure. It can be a mistake, but it's only a failure if you don't do what Amy said, take responsibility for it. So if he finger pointed, like the teacher didn't give us enough time, teacher never gave us a study sheet.
They didn't remind me to bring my stuff home.
Right? You know, they go into all that stuff. Well, everybody in the class did bad, right? Like the whole reality is that, you got to take responsibility. You have to learn from it and then grow from it. And that's how this transitioned into being a massive victory, you know, from a kid perspective for him. So
it was a massive victory for us, because as a parent, for him to come right out and say, I think I failed a test, was good to know that he wasn't fearful of making that mistake. He recognized that he'd now made a mistake, but he wasn't afraid of it, because he realized because mistakes in our house haven't become a negative thing.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry to cut you off. Like I do, just finish your thought, because I want to piggyback on that. Finish your thought and go. Okay. All right. Good. So yeah, the thing for me, like that was a huge family victory for me, was this constant need of wanting it to be comfortable for your kids. When I say comfortable, I think it means like you want them to succeed. You don't want your kids to get hurt. You don't want your kids to fail. You don't want your kids to stumble. You don't want that. So we always want it to be great for them. But the reality is that's not where the growth comes. Right? You know, like you sit there and it might be whatever like we just came through this. So you go through these hockey tryouts, right? And we're in the room with these, you know, as someone who's got a leadership position in these hockey tryouts, we're in the room releasing some of these kids, and I know that the release of some of these kids not making the team is going to be the greatest pivotal point of victory for them going forward and becoming better, right? Like the greatest victories that I feel like I've made in my life have often been birthed out of some of the greatest failures. And so what happens there is as a parent, you don't ever want to see your kids hurt, you don't want to see them struggle, you don't want to see them, but you know that's where the refining happens in those moments. So the huge victory for me was to sit there and recognize that that learning that a 21 out of 40 on a science test is an awesome stepping stone, if it's a stepping stone to becoming a better human being, to learning from it, to growing from it. And so recognizing that the 21 out of 40 is not remotely catastrophic. In fact, now I'm grateful for it. I sat in the front seat with him on the way to an event this week, and he told me, but I didn't even bring it up. He told me all about it. He goes, so I bet Mom told you about my science test, right? And she hadn't actually, but you know, I let him just unfold the whole thing. And as we're doing that, he's telling me that he brought with him to the event his math book to study so that he's not going to make that same mistake again, and that he started studying for something that's 2 weeks down the road. So this is the awesome thing where I sat there and said, like, wow, I've never seen him study for something 2 weeks down the road. This is awesome. This quote-unquote epic kid fail for him, which it is. I mean, this is just not his character to get 21 out of 40 on a test. This epic kid fail is probably way better and such a much healthier teaching moment than if he would have gotten just, you know, his standard A+ or whatever he gets.
And so that's why I say I was actually happy that he did so poorly on the test, is because it was an awesome opportunity for us to help him take responsibility for his actions. It's hard for him to take responsibility if he came back and said, hey, I got 39 out of 40.
And he didn't study, right? Like that would have been worse, right?
Yeah.
Put in no effort, did nothing, and still just cakewalk through the thing. There'd be no growth in that.
None whatsoever. And you know, I've actually read some books that actually say you should create opportunities for your kids to make mistakes or to have what would be classified as a failure so that they can learn from it. Because if we constantly cushion them their entire life, then when a epic fail happens, they don't know how to recover from that. So if you allow your kids to make their mistakes, to have a little blip in their life, then they have the opportunity to learn to take responsibility, to grow from it, and learn from it so that they can be greater when they're older. And the idea from that is that we're helping, again, and we've mentioned this on other videos, you're helping your child to become adaptable and resilient and learn how to cope and grow from an opportunity like that, rather than just shrinking back and looking outwards to blame everybody else, because that's when there's a failure. If you're constantly looking outward to say, well, it was because it's raining, because it's, I forgot my stuff because they didn't remind me of it. Well, then that child is not learning how to take responsibility,
right?
Which is important to have adults that can take responsibility, self-reflect, and grow from it. The other thing that I think that we've learned too is you have to make sure with your kids that and it can be a slippery slope, is if something happens or if there's a repetitive not doing well on science tests, that they don't start to speak out about themselves and say, well, I'm just not good at science, because then they actually start to slap a label on themselves and they become the bad science student. Okay, sure. So in that case, you can help them grow from that, and whether that's having a little extra help outside or talking to the teacher so they can figure that out. Just do not let your child attach a label to themselves saying, well, I'm not good at that. I just can't be a scientist, so I'm not good at science.
Yeah, and I think it just goes back to our core values. I'm not hooked on trying to create a scientist. That's not the issue. What I'm hooked on is a relationship between what you put in life is what you get out in life, period, right? So we're not going to sit there and say it's okay to slack here and it's okay to slack there. I mean, if I ask the kids to cut the grass, I want them to cut the grass with excellence, right? If I ask them to study for a test, I want them to do it with excellence. It doesn't mean that they have to get an A+. What it means is that they put an effort in and they saw a result come out of that that is in line with what their potential as a human being is, period, right? And so there's just not room to sit there and suck out, label yourself bad, give yourself inappropriate names like tough on, bad at science, or whatever it is. Right. The reality is that we want to create a culture of accountability, responsibility, effort, hard work, yields, whatever results it is.
There's no perfect.
Right.
The kids shouldn't have to feel like they're being perfect, and we always say that there is no perfect. It's only striving for your individual best. That's what we tell our kids. If they're trying their best, that's what's important.
Yeah, and if they're trying their best, right? Just like if I'm trying my best. So we need the same attitude for each other, right? The no perfection standard we need for each other, right?
It is.
So love you guys. Have an awesome week. Anything else you want to say?
No. Have a great weekend.
All right. We'll see you guys all next week.
Bye.
Bye.